So the Mandela Effect phenomenon, this was like watching one big Twilight Zone episode, except the Twilight Zone was actually in my memories and revisiting things I got wrong in
That's
my
great.
life. I think was that maybe one of the many reasons why you wanted to just mount this documentary, just to give people sort of a mirror to maybe their own lives as well, along with the Mandela Effect.
Well, that's a great question to open up with because Rod Serling was one of my major influencers, no doubt about that. The idea that he had presented alternative realities almost every week on that show. And that was the idea that the world and the alternative realities could be right there. And that was his milieu. That's what he worked with. So I believe the Mandela effect probably is the closest to a Twilight Zone kind of reality where something has happened where it looks like we have two timelines, two different realities, more or less merged together. And the evidence of the merging is this residual evidence or residual things that have been left apparently in this universe where we are right now, but they don't match up to the memory of millions, if not billions of people. And then when you try to figure out if it's just misremembering or is it just kind of a psychological issue, you can find evidence that clearly at one time something used to be this way, but it's no longer this way, it's this other way. And whether it's movie scenes, whether it's TV show scenes, whether it's name of celebrities, whether it's actual product logos, whether it's biblical verses, we can go on and on. It's freaky. And our movie presents, we think, a prima facie or courtroom level kind of evidence package that says to people, it may be like the Twilight Zone, like one of our people says in the movie, but it's real. Something happened. And we get into some of the areas about how it may have happened, why it may have happened, and then more evidence about it happening.
When you, Robert, when you present this evidence to the lay person, I mean, I don't know if you can break it down to percentages. It's a pretty gutsy to actually, you have the evidence. So,
Mhm.
but what kind of reaction have you received in a wide scope regarding the Mandela effect? Because not just you, there's just so many people here. And I mean, I think it takes guts to actually throw out this whole thing. And
Oh, it's a great question. It kind of speaks to why I made and why my company made this documentary and why Uncork'd, the distributor, and I are doing this. It's because there's no doubt that the people that have been coming to us with almost like tears in their eyes because they believe they know something happened, and their friends and their family, some of them don't agree, but there's this battle between people living in their own houses together, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, friends, work co-workers. They're in like stalemate, like, no, I remember it distinctly. And no, you're wrong. And we're there for the millions and millions of people who have been saying for a while now, 6, 7 years, they're not crazy. They know there's evidence. They wish they could find it. And our job as a documentary maker, for me anyway, was to show that evidence and to make sure that evidence is very, very clear. That's why you don't see endless talking heads. A lot of producers like to do this endless potpourri of ideas thrown at you, which don't get you anywhere. We chose two of the best experts for numerous reasons. We chose them because they could be representing, like in a courtroom, our top prosecution witnesses. And if there are people out there that disagree with our evidence and think that somehow we didn't prove anything, let me know after you watch the movie. I'd love to hear that. But I don't think that's going to happen. Just like I think if we presented it in a courtroom, maybe we wouldn't reach the threshold of 12 jury members. Well, we might 9 jury members. Maybe it'll end up being like a preponderance of evidence, like in a civil case, not quite the level of beyond a reasonable doubt, because there'll be so much like, consternation. What you're really asking me is, how do people react to the Mandela effect? A lot of people are in denial. No way, no way. It must just be my memory. There's no way anything happened to our timeline. Come on, that's crazy. Or we're not living in a simulation, which is another theory, by the way, that the Mandela effect supports Elon Musk's idea that we are living in a simulation. And we can get into what that means. But bottom line, that freaks people out. They think that they might be living in some computer game, that we are avatars of some kind, and somebody outside of our game, the masters of the game, just tweak the program a little bit and change Darth Vader, change that scene, change the names of certain, TV shows or celebrities' names or whatever. And that basically, that would explain a lot about it if we were in a computer game. But I don't know if we are. I don't know about that. So we could talk about that. But we're to answer the question finally, we're there for the people that believe it happened and they need proof to show people. And if the people who don't really believe those people, we want them to watch it too.
Look, the idea about life as simulation or the simulation theory, I think part of that is people years ago would say, oh, that's completely cockamamie. But as our technology grows, Mandela effect spreads as well. That's not as you can't say it's cockamamie. It's something, even if you don't believe it, you have to examine it, correct? Do you see the change?
You're so right. By the way, Elon is no idiot, as we know. Elon might be one of the most, intelligent people on the planet. We know that. He's also been a visionary. Now, he's been saying for more years than I can remember that he believed we are living in a simulation. Not maybe, not could be, 1,000,000,000 to 1. It's like, no. And the reason why he believes we assuredly, without a doubt, are living in a simulation is he looks at the old game Pong. Now, I'm in my 50s, so you guys can figure this out about your age, but Pong was the very first, I think it was called Odyssey, actually. I had to go back and see what this,
wow.
I think it was it called Odyssey?
I just remember, I misremember playing Pong at my local arcade. That I do.
But it wasn't called Pong, and I'm going to go back and find the name of what it really was. But the game you buy and you television, it's just it's like two paddles just hitting a ping pong back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. No big deal. 40-something years later, whatever the years are, decades later, we've got visual games, virtual reality games that are indistinguishable from reality to people. Now, can you imagine 400 years from now, 4,000 years from now, if that's where we were in 40 years, where is our gaming world going to be with AI and all that? Oh my God, it's mind-boggling. So whether we live in base reality, which would mean we're the first ones we're the first intelligent beings in the known universe, all universes, whatever, to ever build up to video game level. And when you look at the actual numbers, a lot of the experts say that we are base reality. If you believe this theory, we're not. We're not the original base reality, and we created the beginnings of this. And maybe 1,000,000 years from now, 2,000,000 years from now, some people will be talking like we are because we made a game that looks like the universe. So I think it's very mind-boggling. But if you really think what Elon is saying, it's very easy. And he's in our movie saying exactly that if you look at what we see right now, that's the best example for our reality. However, there's even better evidence in quantum physics that leads to the CERN particle collider and why we think the CERN particle collider had something to do with causing this Mandela effect, which is change to the historical reality and timeline of our reality. So, it gets pretty crazy, but our movie people should never think it's just really intellectual, confusing. No. We just look at the actual evidence that something was one way or another, and a couple of them are so prima facie, they're so obvious and provable that I think it boggles the mind, and I think that's why people got to watch the movie.
Going back to the original comment about Rod Serling being one of your heroes, if I remember correctly, but can you just talk about how he influenced you as a filmmaker? I'm assuming so, and how you approach your work and your body of work over the years, or maybe not. I'm just wondering.
No, there's a direct connection. One of my good friends and I are very kind of different writers. He's more of a drama writer. His name is Howard Gordon. He's done X-Files. He created Homeland. He worked on 24 Fox for many years. He is a top friend, a great friend, and knows me when we were little kids. And we loved Rod Serling. And we'd sit around and talk about it as two up-and-coming writer kids. We would talk about how Rod Serling could create the concepts of the unknown and present the concepts of the unknown in a very entertaining, dramatic way. There were little plays. He was a playwright. He had done early TV plays, but he did it in a way where it didn't shock the system so much. But when he finally got the punchline at the end, it was so powerful that I said to myself, boy, if I could do journalism and documentary with the same kind of goal that at the end of it, like I mentioned the Buzz Aldrin thing, I wanted Buzz Aldrin to come on and talk about rumors of what they may have seen on the moon. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you an interview, Robert, but you got to let me talk about what I think is on the moon near Mars called Phobos. There appears to be some kind of a monolith sticking out of that moon. And that reminded me of Stanley Kubrick in 2001. So both Rod Serling and Kubrick have sort of been my visionaries for me as a journalist, if you could imagine. And also Rod Serling, don't forget, was writing at a time coming off of the Red Scare, the McCarthy period, and writers were being blacklisted. So he found a way to tell some stories, even political stories about the Cold War, even through the prism of science fiction, which I always found was an amazing twist to do.
How excited are you for the release of Mandela Effect Phenomenon, and for people who are not even in the know to? I'm sure you wish you could actually be in sort of a captive audience to see how people's minds sort of change. I mean, I'm sure. Have you witnessed a lot of people who just say, okay, they're saying that they're eschewing the whole thing, but then when you give them some facts and evidence, their minds, what's it like to see their minds slowly change?
Wow, what a great question that is. Well, one, I'm extremely excited about the movie coming out because we worked a few years on this thing. And we literally researched it for like 6 years. So we have been looking at this, my company, for like half a decade, okay? So for us to be able to chronicle all the Mandela effects, sift them down to the most provable ones, and then present what we did to the public, it's a real joy for us. And we hope everybody loves the movie too. And we really want you to watch it. But the more important question at the end of that was, what did you say at the end there? There was something else I just let my thought.
Oh yeah, no, just also just seeing people when you actually introduce the Mandela effect.
So the same way that we want to hit as many people, obviously, with this movie, and hope they want to buy it and be aware of it. The people that have been denying the Mandela effect is a reality and say, you know what? It must be people misremembering. There's got to be some kind of psychological explanation. Human beings are fraught with mind problems and whatever. Okay, great. But when you show them, for instance, the scene from, and I love this one because it's the one that, I'll give you two that freak the skeptics out. And I love when you can get a skeptic, a guy who's really a woman who's a debunker, to just come in and go, wow, that's weird. Let's talk about two. How about two? You got time for two?
Yeah.
So one involves another movie, well-known movie called Moonraker. It's a James Bond movie. Man, everybody who saw that movie, I have not found one person yet, including debunkers, okay, who don't remember the scene being this way. At the end of the movie, toward the end, Jaws, he's this character who actually was in Twilight Zone episode. We're not going to get into it, but the guy who plays Jaws, he's got this metal rack of teeth, a scary guy. He's the big, hulky, scary dude with the metal teeth in the James Bond movie. And at the end, he makes kind of like a romantic scene, if you will, with this little girl. She's small, she's petite, little buxom. She's a nerdy girl, and he smiles at her. And she smiles back these dainty braces.
I remember
That's the scene. And they go off together. That's the scene. When you watch the movie now, she's not wearing braces. It doesn't make any sense. It's like someone forgot. The prop guy forgot. Hey, wait a minute. Let's recut this. Anybody who sees that movie, and we talk about this in the Mandela Effect way, they go, can't be. And then they go to the movie and they watch the movie and they go, wait a minute. She had braces, right? So we have a woman at the end of our movie. Don't go away right after the credits start because you'll see someone for 2 minutes. It's a great little, breadcrumb we threw in where this great girl is from Kenya. She explains it so well, how she remembers that scene, why she remembers it for sure, how she knows her father would confirm it. And if he wouldn't confirm it, that's not my father. That's not him. He can't be the one. Because she remembered distinctly asking her father in the theater when she was younger, Dad, what are those things on that girl's mouth? And she went, oh, those are braces. And they didn't have braces for her yet. So she's like, well, can I get that? Because I have teeth problems. So she remembers distinctly talking to her father about the scene. and the braces. And that's just one example. There's another one. And by the way, like I said, there's no one. I found zero skeptics, zero debunkers who've come up with an explanation for that scene. There are even commercials that we show in our movie, the Mandela Effect Phenomenon, where you're going to see a commercial made by a major advertising company, and they have the same actor, the guy who had the teeth, and he has a girl in this, like a cashier or something at a store. He smiles, regular smile, and she smiles back, braces. She's got braces. Look, man, I mean, I gotta tell you, like that to me is like I would just drop my microphone and boom, leave the courtroom if that was that one. And I think I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned, but in the a figurine created by Lucasfilms, where Darth Vader says, and you press the button, Luke, I am your father. How are these companies behind the very product of what they're selling the public, whether it's Queen's album or Star Wars memorabilia? How could they blow it? These are not like, third-party companies. I heard some skeptics say, well, it maybe was like someone in China. We outsourced the manufacturing of the figurine to China, and they don't know what they're doing. No, it says copyright Lucasfilms. Okay. then the same thing on the album covers of the album liner notes. So these are the kind of examples we really point to. It's really hard to deny.
Robert, thank you again so much for your time.
My pleasure.
The Mandela Effect Phenomenon on digital, July 9th. So
thank you.
Appreciate it. Take care.